Hey everybody, Russ Manxon here with Namra Consulting, here with Taylor, Sahil, and Ashley Gillin, our creative director.
Yeah, it's another Friday at the studio. I mean, I always look forward to these. It's like no week is ever the same for us. And it's awesome having Ashley on this podcast so we can actually introduce her as well and some of her interests and hobbies as well. So thanks for stopping by today, Ashley.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. How you doing, T? Check in.
Good, man. Good. Doing well. I think it's nice we finally get to do like more team building, team stuff, especially now that Ashley's close to the area. So I'm excited about that. I think it's going to be good for everyone and the culture. People always talk about that. And it's hard to have culture when everyone's remote. But now that we have a space, we have people close, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm happy about that. And I'm just trying to do my best over here to fill in Justin's shoes in the producer seat. So don't call on me, teacher, please.
You're crushing it, man. No, I think honestly today was a very productive day because there's some things that are obviously way more efficient because of technology and doing everything virtually, but there's some things it's nice to just be 15 feet apart while we're working on the same thing and talk back and forth about different projects. So a lot of pros to this new studio we've got.
Absolutely. Now I noticed your mouse pad here, Ashley. Now that's one of your paintings from the past, right?
Yes, that is one of my paintings.
And you have a big art background.
Hold it up for the camera.
It's
Oh, that's nice.
Order your custom mouse pads today.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
That's it. No,
you have a nice Vistaprint ad.
Yeah, you have a huge art background before you got into kind of like, on the digital side of things with like graphics and like creative design, things like that. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Like what drove your, interest to pursue that in the first place? Like, how did you grow in it? Like what kinds of art? Yeah, tell us everything.
Yeah, so pretty much I've been doing art since I was very, very young, since I was probably 3 or 4. I started private art lessons when I was, I think, 4 years old. I was actually in a class full of teenagers and adults when I was that young, too. I guess my current, pre-K teacher at the time was like, you need to take this little girl. She really is interested in art. It's like I barely remember even starting, but then I stayed with that same art teacher for many years. I was 4 years old, stayed with her till I was like 12, I believe. All through high school, I was in advanced drawing classes. I was in Art Honor Society. I was president of the society my senior year of high school while I was applying to colleges, which was pretty much only art schools. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I went to Montserrat College of Art in Beverly, where I was involved in lots of things there. I was working in their art galleries a lot, and that's where I became really passionate about making art, selling art even more, learning about other artists and businesses in the area. Moving on from college, I immediately started working at an art gallery as well as doing my own art. I've been doing commission work a lot as well as my own personal work. So right after college, I kind of jumped into both working a job and doing art all at the same time. And then kind of once COVID hit, I had lost my job at the gallery and I had gotten really into social media marketing on my own just because of art and everything. And right when I just had no idea what to do, I was honestly doing a lot of my art as like my income and what I was doing to keep myself sane every day. And then it just kind of hit me one day. I was like, I'm doing a lot of social media marketing. I really enjoy this. Want to know I help other people do it. And then that's how I met all these lovely people.
Yeah, your art has led you to travel as well, right? Was it through college or something? I think I saw a picture actually when you first started. I believe you submitted it as part of like your portfolio or something. Like it was you painting, and I believe you were looking like at what was it, like Italy or something? I forget,
yeah.
But you did mention something about that. That was very cool.
Yeah, summer of 2018, I studied abroad in Italy for the month of July. So I took 2 classes there. I took a painting class as well as an art history class with, it was like 8 to 10 other students from my college. We actually had the Rhode Island School of Design with us as well and a few other Boston schools. And yeah, it was incredible. We got to go to all the big cities, Rome, Venice, Florence. We stayed in a smaller city called Viterbo. So we got to paint, learn a lot of history. And yeah, that was very inspiring for me. I got to go with one of my favorite professors from college. Yeah, it was a great experience.
Ashley, do you ever get like kind of sick of it? Like, have you ever like had burnout from it? I mean, I can't imagine my passions, what I went to college for. Like, I would get sick of it eventually, I think. But is that something you've ever experienced?
No, I can't say I've experienced that, luckily,
That's good.
Which is amazing. I feel like you always kind of hear that after college, especially art school, where it can be very, very tiring, and it's a lot harder than a lot of people will think on the outside. Like making art, especially your senior year for an exhibition, you have to have so many concepts, and you have to write so much about it and put together shows and things like that. Stand in front of a jury of people and explain your work. Like that can definitely get very, very tiring. And
Probably annoying.
I know so many people after school who just really need a break, and I'm like, that's amazing. For some reason, I did not take a break.
The creative juices still kept coming. There was no fatigue. That's impressive. So what is
Exactly.
like an art I didn't go to art school. So what is kind of like the difference in criteria? Because I know there is a stigma with that. It's like, oh, you paint pictures. Like, well, probably not. So what's the difference between like art school and regular school? Do you take any gen eds? Like how was that?
Yeah, so it really depends on the college. At least at Montserrat, we, you have like your required classes. Like we have required English classes, science classes, history classes. We had no math classes, which was great for me because I would just cry throughout math class in high school. But yeah, so pretty much like for me, we would have like 3 main studio classes a day. So you can choose kind of what you're interested in or what's in your concentration. So for me, I did like drawing classes, advanced drawing classes, figure drawing classes, contemporary art classes, learning about color theory, that kind of stuff, learning how to kind of create your own body of work without being told what to make. So then you have to think critically yourself, which is what artists do a lot, like in the real world. Yeah, studio classes are exhausting. I would tell my friends this even in high school. I took like an advanced placement psychology class and an advanced placement studio art class. And I was like, the studio art class was way more difficult. So yeah, for those classes, you would just kind of follow the instructor, what they're telling you to do, whether it's drawing, painting, graphic design, animation, sculpture, photography. And then, yeah, instead of like exams and tests in those kinds of classes, you'll have a critique where you just spend hours talking about everyone's work. And that's also takes a lot of brain power, like just kind of picking apart everyone's work, talking about it.
And to also accept it, right?
And accept
that
it,
must
yeah.
suck. Just
Learning
be like,
to
I
accept
worked
it.
my ass off on this, and someone's like, I don't like it.
And it's like more emotional than like, I wrote
yeah.
this paper on this prompt. It's real art that you made with some reason.
Exactly. Yeah. So you learn a lot of critical thinking skills. You learn how to take criticism.
You like develop like that thick skin. Yeah.
Yeah.
If people are just ripping apart your work, that you just you're saying you're spending hours on these pieces, you know, and then
Exactly,
and then
yeah.
at the end of it, you're just being critiqued. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Honestly, that was just a really nice part of college almost. Like, obviously not like feeling bad about your work, but having critique. And it's like, this is why I'm here, to do better. And honestly, some of those professors who were the toughest were my favorite. Cause I was like, they really pushed me to be where I am.
Absolutely.
That's a mature perspective, because I'm sure a lot of kids in college were not handling criticism
Oh,
that
yeah.
well. So
There'd be
good
people
on
who
you.
would just kind of drop out of a class or something, which is fine if it's not for you. But I'm like, I'm here to be told how to be better.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think that's one of your strengths. Whenever I have ever had like constructive criticism for something, you always take it and like are so receptive to it. I think that's one of definitely your strengths in the workplace. Is just like you're always open to feedback. You never take anything personal. So
Thank you. Yeah,
that applies.
I think that's definitely a great skill of art school. And even art school in general, it's like when you go to an art school, everyone's always like, their immediate thought is, oh, just art. But it teaches you way more skills than just making art. Like, obviously, my skill to take criticism, I definitely learned that from being in art school. I remember working lots of events where like all these like fancy people in the community who sponsor the college would come, and these people all have like the big like corporate like jobs that look like real jobs to us in art school. And I remember hearing someone say one time, they're like, oh, for creative people, there's always going to be jobs and opportunity, and because you learn way more skills than just like one simple skill. And that's how I felt the whole time, honestly.
Absolutely.
It's pretty great.
So out of all these forms of art, why did you narrow in on painting? What spoke to you about that?
Well, since I've always been interested in drawing, it was kind of like that gradual next step. In the private art class that I joined when I was a kid, I eventually, when I got older, started painting with watercolors there. So then throughout high school, I was also painting more. So it was just kind of like that next gradual, like, it's basically like drawing, then along with learning color theory and just how to use the materials, I guess. So
Cool.
Oh, that's very cool. So, okay, so now you have like your art form that you've picked. Now you mentioned you also, take on commissions and things like that. Like what's that process like?
yeah, so that process is great. It was, let me try to think when this started. I guess just when I was maybe in high school, people who just know me know I'm an artist, and people are like, oh, can you like paint my dog or like draw my baby, things like that. So it just kind of started in a very easy way. I'm like, yeah, like you can pay me to make you a drawing or a painting. That's great. And then I started doing it more during college, like during like holiday breaks and things like that. And then after college, I was like, okay, cool. Like now that I know a little bit more business skills, once I started working at an art gallery. So luckily that was like put me right in the sales world as well, how to kind of talk to people about salesy things. So I was kind of able to develop my own little like business practice of how I should offer things and how I should communicate this to people and how I should maybe make up my own website. And yeah, once school ended and I was working a job and then kind of having art as my second job, I just kind of went right for it, where I'm like, I'm offering commissions. Animals have definitely been a passion of mine to paint, and in college I focused a lot on painting landscape, nature, things like that. And I really didn't want to stray too far away
That's
from...
That's probably what like Italy was, right?
Yeah.
Landscape and architecture, things like that. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So pretty much my art practice, so like my senior year when I had an exhibition and I wrote an artist statement, it was landscape, nature. That's where I really found my voice in painting. And then I also love to paint animals as well. So I kind of thought to myself, I was like, okay, for personal work, if I'm going to be making landscape, nature, but commissions animals, I still want it to look like it's all my work, though. I don't want it to look like kind of two separate artists. So I just kind of thought to myself how to do that. And I was like, well, I'll kind of visually think about it the same way, execute it the same way. And I've been able to kind of make all that work look cohesive. And yeah, I've definitely gotten a backbone with people asking me, oh, can you paint like 20 dogs and my child and a cow and this and that. And like those are things where I'm like, okay, I can say no to things that don't really relate to like what I want to do or what relates to my art style. So
because you want to deliver art that also, where you feel like, hey, I did my best on this, right?
Yeah.
So if it doesn't resonate with you, you don't feel like you are able to do that.
Exactly, right? Yeah. And I definitely want to do commissions that I'm excited about. I feel like when I first started, I would just kind of take anything. I'm like, oh, I'm getting money for my art. I'll do anything. And nowadays, I'm kind of putting myself first in that sense, where I want to make sure what I'm doing I'm happy about. That way it delivers to the client in a good way as well if I'm happy about it.
Yeah. How does the process work? So like, let's say, someone wanted like a painting of their dog. Do they just send you like, just the picture of the dog and kind of ask like, what's the timeline and things like that?
Yeah. People reach out to me and I just basically say, thank you so much for reaching out. I usually ask people how they heard of my work, whether it's through mutual friends or they just kind of Googled my work and found me. I just like to know. I think it helps like personalize the conversation too.
Gotcha.
I give them prices. I give them the size options that I usually work on. I'll offer if you want something a little bigger or smaller outside than what's popular, we can talk about that. I tell them the kind of photos I'll need. And then a timeline if I have people like lined up.
So that's where it gets interesting, right? So from a process like that and being so hands-on and actually with tangible art, which is like painting, how was the transition like for you to go on to like digital painting in a way, right? Where it's like graphic design and you're kind of designing things digitally, but it's still, in a way, it's like a form of art, right? You are storytelling or conveying text through it or a meaning and so on. So how was that transition like for you?
I think it was great, honestly. Like, I think it really excited me too, because just learning art and going through art school and everything, it's like we learned that yes, I'm concentrating on drawing and painting, but like everything I mentioned, it's not just that. You can use those creative forces in many different ways. So I was very excited to now kind of be doing that because I really hadn't before. The experience I had with that was like building my own website, building my own social media pages. I had kind of taught myself graphic design. And that's something I think about too, where I made my own website. I'm now in this role, and I didn't take a single graphic design class in college. Those are kind of things I learned on my own. And I've even talked to some of my professors about this, where I'm still thankful I did that, because a lot of my time spent in like studio classes working with like live models or having professors there that show me like one-on-one how to do something, that was very effective for me, where teaching myself like digital design elements on my own was effective for me in that way. So I've had people ask me, do you wish you took a graphic design class or anything? And I'm like, no, like it's worked out in this way. I'm glad I spent my time there doing what I did. And I guess the transition from painting tangible art to a digital creative space, I guess for me, it's very similar. Aside from just like the physical execution, like using a paintbrush versus obviously a computer, that's obviously very different. But when you think about it, composition especially, I'm able to look at graphics and templates and everything with the same kind of mindset I'd look at a painting. And I think that's been very helpful. I've been able to navigate how like templates and things look that way. Colors, obviously.
I think there's definitely something to what you said, where it's like, I think graphic design is probably one of the few spaces in like arts where it's much easier to probably just teach yourself on your own, watching a YouTube video, like playing around on Canva or Photoshop or whatever, and as opposed to having a professor kind of like showing you how to use the keystrokes on the computer. It doesn't really it's something that can be explored a lot more on your own time, on your own, so that's interesting.
Exactly, yeah, and that might not be for everyone, but especially me. I look back to how lucky I was to have those studio art classes, drawing and painting, like physically in person, and it's great. Like a lot of people might learn how to draw from books or YouTube videos, and for me, that in-person interaction was great, and I was very thankful that I was able to kind of teach myself other skills.
I think that same path of progress is there as well, where it's, in studio class, it was people critiquing and giving feedback. That kind of relates too, where, your graphic design could be critiqued. Hey, this isn't in line with my brand, or this, or I want these changes. So it makes it easier to go through that. And, so that's definitely like a huge skill. I think that translates over. Sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about, because now you've handled, a lot of different kind of roles as well, being like the creative director. Now you're with, you're kind of managing like the creative side of things. Yeah. Graphic design and things like that. But you've also handled some of like the admin stuff and behind the scenes. Like what's been your favorite part?
Oh man, I feel like that's such a tough question.
I'll reframe it because I'm very curious, like very similarly, but you were doing social media on your own before you met us, right? And that's what kind of made you realize like, oh, I could help other people with that. And you were doing it on your own social media pages to promote your own art. So what have you learned about marketing and like social media marketing in general through working with all of our clients that you kind of weren't prepared for or didn't expect to learn?
Let me see. I feel like that kind of gives me an answer back to Sahil's question. Mm-hmm. I think for me it was discovering how to use Canva a lot more. I had only used it in like very simple, for very simple projects in the past. So learning Canva, all the options on there, I feel like it's just so fun for me going on. Even sometimes when I'm like, I don't know how to make something look, it's just fun for me to be on there and like scroll through and just kind of do my best and create a whole bunch of ideas. So that was really fun. I think having all those creative options on like a design platform was really fun for me because I had never done that before.
We've had to discover different tools as well with some types of work, right? Because sometimes you have templates that you have to open up in different softwares and things like that, which leads you, I believe, I forget exactly which website it is, but we had to use that one website to open up a specific type of file because not even, Photoshop or anything was opening it. And then we found this one that, so there's that element too, where it's like you learn these different tools and then you're just able to play around with it because you just,
Exactly. That's a good
itch
point.
of art is still in there.
Yeah. Like problem solving and learning new tools. That's just something I really like about the role. I feel like I'm always learning something new, which is great.
I just love how much it just correlates with you, with like your background. It's like learning different tools. I'm sure it was similar back in studio class and things like that, like learning the different types of brush, that you can use to paint like a particular thing. That's learning a different tool,
Exactly. I love how much it relates in so many different ways, because when I like left college and was like, I need to get a job that relates to art. It's like working in an art gallery. I really loved that though, but that was like the only thing I could think of for some reason. I couldn't think of anything else really creative, or I couldn't think of how to branch out my creativity. And then, it was just during the pandemic, and it just like hit me very quickly. I'm like, I'd be very interested in this. Yeah.
I just have one more question from my end, and that was, do you have a piece that's out there that, you're like very proud of? Like, is it at, like a museum, or it kind of ended up on a wall that you're like, wow, like, this is surreal to me? Any pieces like that?
I do a few. The first piece that comes to mind would be one that was part of my senior thesis exhibition, which is a photo I had taken myself in the Beverly Common next to Montserrat. And I had painted it. And that was when I first I had discovered that I really want to take my own photos and paint from them. Just personalizes it a lot more and goes along with like what my ideas are a lot more. And that was probably one of my favorite pieces. I had it hanging in my first apartment, and then I submitted it to a gallery show at a gallery in Long Island, New York, and it got into that, which was my first I called it like my first big girl exhibition, because I had only done like school things like in New England, so it was the first time one of my pieces was somewhere farther, and I had traveled to go see it, which was really exciting. And it unfortunately didn't sell, but I was actually happy to have it back because it is one of my favorites.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely.
How can people find your paintings? Do you still have your website up and stuff like that? Can people go there?
Yes, I do. My website is ashleyroseart.com, and you can find my social medias from there as well.
Yeah, drop your IG too. What's your IG?
Yeah, IG is Ashley Rose Art.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Hold on.
Here
It is up on the big board.
Awesome.
Right here for us.
That's the painting I just talked about too.
That's the painting.
Cool. Did
So
you
there you
name
have-
it? Did you name it? Like the
Yeah, I believe it's called Golden Hour in Beverly, Mass. A lot of my paintings from that show specifically too, where that picture is from, were from either Beverly or my hometown in New Hampshire, and I just kind of put like the city name after each title.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Super cool.
Well, you are very talented, Ashley, and we were very grateful to have you here.
Thank you so
So
much.
everyone go and get a custom portrait or custom piece of art made by Ashley. That's the plug. Any closing words or anything else from any of you guys?
I feel like I have more questions.
You have more?
Go for
Yeah,
it.
like, I guess I wanted to know, and maybe we use this, maybe we don't, but like in terms of how we help clients and like the conversations that you have with clients, the feedback, the just like general relationship, is it what you expected? Like when it comes to like what businesses need help with when it like with marketing, like were you expecting us to be working with people at this capacity or?
Yeah, I think it's mostly what I expected. Working with clients, I've had experience working with like the general public and I guess my own clients through art as well. So I think it's a similar, it's very similar to what I've been used to. But all the clients are great. I've really enjoyed talking with all of them. Yeah, I don't think there were any like big surprises or anything there.
Cool. Good to hear.
Do you have anything else?
No, I think that was it.
Well,
I didn't know if that was going to
going off of that. I did have one more marketing question as well. When it comes to the marketing side of things and branding and all, colors are very important, right? A lot of emphasis is placed on color palettes and colors, whether it's part of a logo design or a graphic batch. It's what is like. What are your thoughts on that from an art background? Were you ever taught like certain colors are going to convey maybe this meaning or anything like that?
I think what comes to mind with that question is just that like how someone sees something, visuals is everything almost, like first impressions. So obviously, like, any color can work well for anyone. It's just as long as it stands out and shows like who you are. So businesses with obviously a really good branding, good coloring, really cool looking logo, that's like the first thing someone's going to notice. And I think that's just really important. And that's something I would think about. Even in school too, when I'm just thinking about what is art, what is a creative process. And it's really everything. It's like everything you look at that you want or that you want to buy or that you want to use. It's like the visuals and the aesthetics of it is like one of the first things that draws your attention. So especially for someone's business, it's very important.
Perfect. Any closing words, Ashley?
I think I'm good. Thanks so much for having me on and getting to talk about art. This was awesome.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We'll do it again soon.
Well, yeah, do it again soon. Take care, guys.